Hi, 7th graders. Today we're going to be discussing your Mystery and Suspense Unit writing assignment. So now it's time to apply the skills and concepts that you've learned to your own writing. So this packet here is going to help you incorporate those literary devices and create suspense in your own mystery and suspense story. Now this story can be completely made up. Okay, so unlike the narrative assignment, this can be a completely creative endeavor for you. So your short story must be at least 1 page long, typed 1.5 spaced Arial. Your template will be set up for you, so you shouldn't have to alter any of those settings. It has to intentionally include the elements studied during the Mystery and Suspense unit, and this packet will help you do that. It has to be proofread and properly formatted. It does not need to be submitted in Google Docs via Google Classroom because now we have Schoology. And it has to include the planning stage, this packet, a first draft, peer revision, and final draft. So this packet is worth points, so you're going to want to pay attention and do it completely and well. So the due dates we will discuss as a class. They're going to be a little bit different, so that'll come later. And the first thing you're going to do is brainstorm some ideas. So what are some ideas for your mystery and suspense story? And just kind of fill this space with all the different possibilities. Keep in mind that there may be absolutely no gore or violence. It is possible that a character or two may die. Okay, that is all right, but it is not okay for you to include bloody death scenes and violent scenes of any kind, okay? And if you have questions about that, please see me. So to begin with planning your story, you're going to want to start with your setting. So where and when will your story take place? And what mood would you like your setting to have? Okay? Now, your mood can change, and it should change throughout your story. Okay, so you're just talking about initially, that's in the beginning, what mood would you like your setting to have. Then you're going to include a description of setting or sensory detail to demonstrate the mood. So if my mood was spooky, I might put in this box that there's a dense fog and there's dark shadows and twisted trees. Okay, so if I'm trying to create a spooky mood, then I'm going to include those spooky details that are going to help me to create that mood. Okay, next is the conflict. And because this is a mystery story, the conflict is very important. If maybe the conflict is something has been lost, or so who took the thing, or who committed the crime, or who is Molly's crush, or whatever the main conflict of your story would be. And then you want to think ahead to the end of your story. How is the conflict resolved? Okay, so how does Molly get her crush to like her? How do the kids find the key to the mystery chest? So whatever your conflict is, and then how is it resolved? And then because it's a mystery story, you're going to want to include up to 4 clues. That's up to 4 clues. You don't have to complete all of these boxes. But what are some clues that can help your reader try and figure out the resolution of your story before the end? Okay? Next is characterization. So you will be responsible for doing characterization in your story. So right here we have the name of the protagonist. Remember, the protagonist goes through a change or learning experience. Okay, so this is the main character. Then you're going to want to provide a physical description of the character. Now you can choose to either write this physical description in words, or you may draw a picture, but it must be a detailed picture. You can't just write a stick person and say, oh, that's my main character, because that is not a description. Okay? What does their hair look like? What do their clothes look like? What color eyes do they have? How tall are they? How old are they? Those are all things that you're going to want to include in the physical description. Then you're going to also want to include some character traits. Okay, so 2 character traits. So if my character is paranoid, like everything, they're afraid that there's danger around every corner, how am I going to show that my character is paranoid? Okay, so you are listing the character trait, and then you are talking about how do you plan to show that within your writing. And of course, you're going to do that for the second character trait as well. And then you're also responsible for characterization of a secondary character. Now, you can have more than 2 characters in your story, of course, but you're only responsible for characterization of 2 of them. So just choose another character to characterize. And again, you're going to choose the name, you're going to provide a physical description, and then you're going to provide 2 character traits. Oh, also, if your story only has 1 character, like for example, somebody is stranded on a desert island, just see me and I will initial this off, and you will not be responsible for that secondary character. But that's only if you only have 1 character in your story. Okay? Your next task will be to show how you plan to create suspense in your story. So you must choose at least 3 of the following suspense techniques, and then you're going to describe how you plan to incorporate them into your writing. So there are 5 choices here. We have time. That's when you drag out a moment of intensity to create suspense. You have foreshadowing. That's when you leave a clue to the resolution of the conflict early on in the story. Flashback. Can you effectively use flashback to provide background or clues? Dramatic irony is where you make the reader bite their nails because they know something that the character does not. And then, of course, you can create suspense just with the setting. So a spooky or dramatic setting will create a suspenseful atmosphere. So you're going to circle your choices, and then you're going to describe how you plan to incorporate those. Next is the plot organizer. So this is basically a plot diagram, although you're not putting it on a plot diagram, you are instead writing it out. So for your exposition, you want to introduce the setting, the characters, and the basic conflict. Okay? Now you don't have to write things word for word. I don't expect you to have a full rough draft in this in these boxes. But what I do expect is that you at least have some bullet points that show your intentions. How do you plan? How are you going to structure your exposition? And then the conflict. Again, you're just telling me what the conflict is. Then you get into rising action. Now notice that there are 3 required spaces, but there are 5 total. You are required to have at least 3 rising action points. And again, you don't have to write a whole lot of writing here. It just needs to be your plan, okay? If you write a couple words here in bullet points, that's going to be meaningful for you when you go to write your first rough draft. So you're just kind of sketching things out at this point. Okay? The climax, of course, is the turning point of your story. When you're writing the climax, keep in mind that it should be a fairly finite point of time, meaning it should not take up more than a little bit of your story. You don't want your plot diagram to look like this, where you've got your exposition, your rising action, and then your climax is lasting for a while. You want to make sure that it is a point, okay? That it is a turning point, not a turning plateau, okay? And then for falling action, you'll notice that that is completely optional. A lot of students like to write cliffhangers, and so that and that is, of course, where there is no falling action. This falling action is optional. Next, we have the resolution. This is not optional. This is where you tell how the conflict was resolved. And this is where you're going to reveal the theme of your story as well. A lot of students in their narratives lost points because you did not include a theme. You told me a really great story about the day you picked up your puppy, but you didn't tell me anything that you learned. So make sure that you are including a theme as a part of your resolution. And I want you to work it in. I don't want you to just write your theme as, and the theme of this story is never trust strangers. I want you to work it in. And then, for example, you could say, Sally never talked to another stranger. Okay, that is implying the theme, don't talk to strangers. Okay, then you're going to choose your narration. You're going to tell me what narrative perspective you plan to tell your story in. Remember, you can choose from first. I would stay away from second, but you can choose from first or third person narration. And remember that there are 3 types of third person narration. There's objective, limited, and omniscient. And go back and check your notes if you forgot what the definitions of those are. But from what narrative perspective will you tell your story? And what will be the overall tone of your narrator? Okay, an overall tone. That doesn't mean that the tone can't change, but what will be the overall tone of your narrator? Will your narrator be very serious? Will your narrator be mysterious? Okay, and then how will you accomplish this? Use specific words and attitudes to accomplish this tone. Okay, and that'll be the end of your planning stage. And I have just included some transition words just to make sure that you are you're adding some transitions into your writing to make it smoother. And there'll be a little mini lesson on that when we start drafting. And so that's the end of your planning stage. So you can stop there. You'll notice that the next section is color coding your paper. So that'll happen after you have written your first rough draft. So just complete the packet up until this point, and that will be your planning phase.